Hi guys, this is Rachel. I'm just going to post my response video. Really appreciated all of your videos from earlier this week, so just going to respond one by one. Jonathan, first, just want to say thanks for sharing your story about your kids. I think that's really inspiring that you kind of brought that to the forefront and talked about your personal experiences with both of them, which seems like they've both been very successful so far. So that's awesome. But I think one of the things you pointed out, I mean, I know I read this number too, but 72% being unemployed, I think I just think about that, and it's just such a huge number. So I wonder how we can change those numbers or how we can make an impact on that number. And then also talking about how it's not just the law, but the right thing to do. I think that's something that I focused on a lot in my social justice project was, yes, like you have people that are like, oh, we have to do this because it's the law, but what about, the things that are there, but, are they usable or are they really helping someone, not just doing it because, oh, we don't want to get sued. And then finally, I think when you talked about the campus activities and making sure that those are inclusive, I looked a lot into that with my project as well, and I think it's really important that the administration is knowledgeable, that the departments on campus are knowledgeable about. I mean, a lot of these things that could be changed to make them more accessible are very, very small. You have a big event in the gazebo field, but you have it kind of close to the sidewalk, or you have like at least the sidewalk not blocked, so people can in a wheelchair can come at least, be a part of the event. So I think sometimes that stuff it's not hard to do. I think people just often don't think about it. So I appreciated that. Megan, your video, how you talked about interviewing the candidate with a disability, and one of your colleagues just looked at it as a setback. I'm sure that's probably common, unfortunately. I think with Jamie and the whole recruitment process, I mean, I didn't get to sit in on the conversation, but I think that was a big thing too with like selection and whether they, you think about the negatives. I think and automatically, and you don't necessarily think like, oh, well, what positive things could, someone bring. So it's sad that that's the case. And then the other thing I like that you talked about is PTSD. I think we forget often that this is a disability, and I think it's also interesting. When we think about PTSD, I think we automatically think veterans and males, and I think that's yes, while that does affect them, I think we also need to remember. I mean, the women, obviously, veterans, but also women in general who are struggling with PTSD from rape or some other kind of traumatic experience that I think we just need to remember that it can kind of affect a larger group, and it's not always what we assume that it's from. So I appreciated that. Kevin, I liked that you, thank you for sharing your personal story as well. And I liked how you put kind of a spin on it with in regards to mental disability, so mental illness. I think it's really sad to hear about one of the professors not believing you or not, understanding your condition. I hope that that's not a common issue for students. From working with the Disability Resource Center, I'm sure that it does happen. I mean, the person that I'm working with there has said several times, like some professors are more like not as like willing or to make sure that like their documents are accessible. If they have a video that they want to show and it doesn't have closed captioning, sometimes they'll still show it. And so I hope maybe that's some kind of knowledge that comes from administration, or some kind of, not knowledge, but maybe that's some kind of ruling, I guess, that comes down from administration to make sure that these faculty are aware and that they're going to be willing to work with students. So that was interesting. And then also, I think it's interesting when you talked about, how the difference between if someone is just like in a depressive episode, or if they're going to be capable of hurting people. I think that's really interesting. Working for housing and being on call, we deal with situations like that. I won't say quite often, but we do deal with them. And luckily for me, I don't know about everyone else, but for me, it's always, almost automatically go to the counseling center and have them, if it's late at night, we'll have them try to talk to the counselor on call and let the counselor make that call, because we're not professional, mental health professionals. So, it takes a little bit of the burden off of us, I would say, and it also helps with that calculated approach, like you were talking about. Making sure that they talk to someone that's aware of what's going on, and who can tell them what kind of the best next step for them is. So I just appreciated that you mentioned that, and I think that's something that housing tries to get better and better and better at, just kind of making sure that we execute that. So, and then finally, Samantha, thank you as well for sharing a personal story about your cousin. And I think everything that you mentioned is very true, and I wonder if we more often see that separation of students in high school more than college. I mean, I think we definitely still see the separation, but I mean, I would maybe I don't know for sure, I guess, but I would maybe say in the college level, at least like everyone is in the same class and you couldn't really tell. I mean, physical disabilities, obviously you can, but the Disability Resource Center and those opportunities where you don't have to be separated, or if you need extra time, you can go to your professor not in front of the class. And so I think that's interesting, and I totally agree with you about needing to be more inclusive outside of just academics. And making activities available for everyone, regardless if they will participate or they want to participate. I think that goes back to something I discussed earlier about like electronic, files and websites and information for handicapped people, accessibility. Always seems to be in like a bold italic star at the bottom. It's never really in the main kind of paragraph with everything else. And we talk about it, and us as non-disabled people, if it was, it wouldn't make a difference because we just read right past it. But someone that's disabled that sees, oh, this is like included, they want me to come. So I think it goes back to that. And but I think you're totally right. I think we all need to make us as future higher ed professionals need to make sure that we are paying attention to those things, and what we can do to make sure the departments are inclusive all the time. So that is all I have, and I really appreciate working with you guys, and I'll see you soon.